Daniela here, and you are listening to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. We have been producing this show since 2018, and we have hundreds of episodes that are filled with inspiration, education, marketing strategies, and more, all just for aesthetic professionals. Right now in this season, my focus is creating content specifically for spa CEOs who desire to build a profitable, systemized spa that generates a minimum personal income of $100K per year without sacrificing your family time or burning out. If that is you, you are in the right place, my dear. I am so happy that you are here. Now, on today's episode, we are diving into a marketing budget deep dive with my dear friend and APA partner, Miss Tara Zerker. Now, Tara has been and will continue to be our go-to referral partner for all things ads. In fact, I used to pay agencies lots and lots of money. I'm talking like $3,000 to $4,000 a month to manage our ads. And that was really until I gained the confidence in myself with Tara's support and her program, Successful Ads Club, that I could actually bring ads in-house. That move, you guys, saved me about $30,000 a year. Can you believe that? $30,000 a year. And when I think about how much that adds up over the years, we're talking about 6 figures of savings plus, right? By doing them in-house. We were able to shift and change our ads as we saw fit. Nobody knows our brand like we do. And that, like, our results started going up higher as well. Was it fun? No. I will be super honest about that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, okay? I did not enjoy the process, but was it worth it? 100%, you guys. It was worth it 1,000,000 times. It was a short-term pain for a long-term gain. So one of those things that I have absolutely zero regrets on. And if you're interested in learning how you can either start doing ads yourself, if you have not really kind of dipped your toe in that pool, or if you're like me and you're like, gosh, I'm spending so much money on ads and I just want to figure out how to bring this in-house and save myself that much money, then I want you to click the link below this episode to get registered for a free training that Tara and I are hosting together on July 14th. Okay, that was just a little side note, but let's get back to the purpose of today's episode, and that is to dive into ads budgets, to really get clear on how much should you be spending on marketing. So we're breaking it down to marketing in general, and then how much of that should be ads, how much should that be traditional marketing, all of those fun things that we get to play around with and do as spa CEOs. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and I hope to see you in July at the training that Tara and I are hosting. All right, let's go ahead and play that interview. All right, Tara, welcome back to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I don't know how many times you've been on, but I love that you're here again. And I think that, talking about marketing, talking about ads is always something that is evolving and changing and growing as the market and the economy shifts, the way that we're doing things. And so today I wanted to specifically dive into budgeting, because budgeting is how much are we supposed to be spending? How do we, I feel like when people pick their ad budgets, they're just kind of, that sounds like a good number, but like, do you see that? I mean, I used to do that
all the time. Absolutely.
And then it was like, okay, no, if I want to be really strategic and I want to really get into the numbers, I want to look at the percentages that I'm spending specifically on marketing. And it doesn't have to be all on ads or all on SEO or all on events or referral programs, but we definitely want to take that total marketing budget and then allocate what is working and what is making the most sense right now.
100%. And I think the more that you can think of your business and look at your business through the lens of percentages, because how many of us, myself included, that's how I used to do budgeting too. It's just like, I don't know, maybe this amount, like just kind of guessing your way through. that is not your most effective way. So we really step into more of that stronger sort of business
The
posture.
more
Yes,
sophisticated business owner as
absolutely.
we kind of grow and evolve. And when we started really getting into our numbers and really diving into like profit first, and in profit first, you do everything in percentages, right? This is probably 5 or 6 years ago that I was like, oh, we need like
Yeah.
a percentage for our marketing budget too. So um, let's talk about kind of the different stages a business might be in, or different goals that a business might have, and how we're looking at like how do we know what a healthy budget should be for those different businesses?
I love it. Okay, so when I'm thinking about budgeting, I always want to think of my business. You're thinking of it in kind of three stages of growth. And really, your business is probably going through all three stages of these growth markers every single year. So there's maintenance, there's growth, and there's hyper growth. And so, should I just take us through, Daniela, kind of each
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
And okay, so if you're in maintenance mode and just kind of think to yourself as you're listening to us today, like which place am I in right now? You're probably just kind of maintaining your current numbers. You're covering attrition essentially. If you know you lose an average of 7 clients a month, you're just covering those 7 clients and you're just kind of maintaining your capacity. And there's certainly times of the year where you might be in that stage. I mean, maybe if you're a solo SD, you might just be, maybe summers are a little, not only are they slower just in the spa world in general, but you might also have kids out of school and maybe you're just trying to maintain certain, client
What we
percentage.
what we see in spa on average is that you're going to lose about 20% of
Yeah,
your patient base or client base every year. And so just plan that you want to add 20% new clients to whatever
so
that
good.
active number is. And it's really important to not get attached to that, because people move, people get pregnant, people's financial situations change, people find other locations that are a better fit for them, and all of it is okay. It's just, if you plan for that average of 20%, that's your maintenance mode that we're wanting to spend our marketing dollars to recoup, to stay at that level.
So good. The next stage would be growth. So this is where you're looking to grow your revenue. And everybody always says they want growth, but when you really look at it, there may be times of the year where you're not planning for as much growth, right? So this is like you're really looking to grow your revenue month over month. And then we go into hyper growth. And it sounds exciting, but listen to what hyper growth is. Hyper growth is when this is your cheapest time of the year to acquire clients. So we're thinking this might be a Black Friday for some of you, maybe right, as fall starts. Like these are just periods of time where it's really easy to acquire clients. I'm also thinking of beginning of the year, is another beautiful time for this stage. But there's a but, you are willing to sacrifice perhaps a tiny bit of your profitability in order to have this hyper growth stage where you're getting a ton of clients and you know that's going to pay off long term, right? So you don't want to be in a hyper growth for longer than 2 to 3 months. Your bookkeepers, CPAs would get very angry with a suggestion of staying in hyper growth for longer than that. So, and the reason why, and you're going to hear when I go back through this kind of timeline or these markers again, you're going to hear the percentages, and it's going to make sense why hyper growth, you're sacrificing just a little bit of something else in order to get into that stage. So when we're in maintenance mode, we want to spend, and I would just ask yourself, like, am I overspending or underspending? So this should be pretty easy to calculate. And you're just basically going to think of your total revenue, and I'm going to give you the percentages of how much you should be or could be allocating towards your marketing budget at each of these stages. Okay, so if you're in maintenance mode, about 5% of your revenue should get you to that point where you're pretty easily replacing the clients that you're losing. So we're just maintaining. If you are in growth mode, you want to be popping that budget up to 10 to 15% of revenue. And that should be fairly comfortable. It shouldn't be, affecting too many other things. And then when we go into hyper growth, that's where you're willing to bump up even a little bit further to 15 to 20% of your revenue. And again, you're doing that intelligently. You're only doing that during the periods of time of the year where you just know it is less expensive to acquire customers, acquire clients, than it might be during other periods of time. Like people are just in the mode of finding, their spa services for the year, and that's when you want to capitalize on that hyper growth period. So when you think through that, it should be pretty easy to start thinking to yourself, am I underspending or overspending? And I will tell you that overspending is rarely the problem. Danielle, I would love to hear your thoughts, but for the most part, when I see folks and we go through kind of their P&L, they're dramatically underspending typically.
I see that a lot in spa. And I think that, when someone's first starting out, typically we see them starting out as a solo provider and, they're doing the work in the room, they're trying to operate and grow the business. And, or if they're hiring somebody, they're either overpaying them or, so they feel like there's no money at the end of the month. And so to think about investing, you know, thousands of dollars into marketing, they're looking at it as an expense rather than an investment. And so that's why it's incredibly important to be comfortable with your numbers and really track like, okay, if I am doing, let's just say that I have a $250,000 business. I love getting my calculator out here. So
Yes.
250,000. So if I break that down, divide by 12, I know that's not how it all typically works out, but on average, I'm doing about 21,000 a month. If I multiply that times 5%, that's $1,041 a month that I would be spending on marketing. So we may say that we want to spend $500 on ads and then use the other $500 for your other marketing activities. Well, if you spend $500 on ads and then you're getting clients coming in, what we have to look at is what is the client going to spend over the course of their relationship with you as a business. It's not just recouping that $500 and then saying, okay, well, they did a facial and then they bought some retail product. It's what are they going to spend with you over the course of the year? And that's why this is might take us down a different rabbit hole, but I think it's so incredibly important to know who you are and who you serve before you really dive into ads, because targeting the wrong person can really lower your retention rate. And then you can feel like, well, ads don't work. Well, no, it's that you're just throwing ads out there to anyone out there. We have to speak our ideal client's language, that we're connecting with them on a deep personal level, that we understand their needs and desires. And so if you have that piece dialed in and know who you are and know who you serve and what problems you're solving for that individual, then you're attracting the right person. That's going to get you an ROI way more than, the $500 that you spent on the ads.
I mean, that's so powerful. And I think there's even layers of wisdom there, just in general. So many people, so many business owners of all types, and, definitely in the spa world, have targeted the wrong customer, especially when you're starting out, you're figuring all that out. You just don't realize the long tail on that, because guess what? Those are going to be who they're going to bring in their friends. It's just like, you really want to attract that right avatar. And I think one mistake that people make in our world with ads is they think that you have to do these massive discounts. You have to do attract kind of the lowest paying client, right? And that is not true. We see luxury brands, very premium brands in our world that are targeting very effectively with ads. And really, I think it comes down to, and this is just usually, some self-reflection. Now there's so many wonderful ChatGPT prompts you can go through. It's really identifying what your unique selling proposition is. What is that unique result that you get for your clients? And once you figure that out, Oh, everything becomes so much easier, and definitely your ads.
So, how are we going to, you talked about being in these different seasons of maintaining or growth or hyper growth. Is this something that we're looking at when we're doing our annual plan for the year that, hey, from, January, we're going to have a hyper growth and October, we're going to have a hyper growth, or November, depending on if we're
Yeah.
doing an event or Black Friday. And then are we just maybe looking at quarters, how we're mapping it out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, I would say generally we know that there's a summer sort of slowdown. So you don't want to be usually in any sort of hyper growth situation at that period because it's actually going to cost you more, right? It costs you a little bit more. You might be able to maintain kind of a good average, but you don't want to spend more during that time. Um, and then, yes, I would just kind of look at, and your data should tell you, like, when are your promotions the most effective? Typically we're thinking back kind of that fall season. Um, Early part of the year is wonderful, perhaps an anniversary period. Those are typically periods where it's like, and hypergrowth doesn't need to be a full 3 or 4 months. It can be 1 month where it's like, we're going to increase our ads budget this month, knowing it's our anniversary month or whatever it is. And we typically just get a lot of client activity, new client activity. And so we want to capitalize, increase the budget a little bit during that period. No, we might see a little bit less profitability percentage wise during that month, but that's okay because back to what you said earlier, that lifetime value
Hmm.
more than makes up for it.
Okay. So we're mapping this out in terms of timeline of when we're going to do it. We're mapping it out. Are we then adjusting our budget based on what actually comes in? Because I know we like to do projections when possible, but sometimes it's over and sometimes it's under. So are we just kind of carrying over the budget to the next month and seeing
Yeah,
and adjusting it
absolutely.
in that
Yep.
way? Okay.
Yep. And something for people that are nervous about this, maybe you don't have as much data to kind of inform. Sometimes I'll say, well, then go with last month, that revenue that already came in the door, base your budget on last month. So if last month, I don't know, let's say we had a $20,000 month, then let's take, maybe we're in growth mode. Maybe we want to take 2,000 of that. And I think something that we want to pull out here as well, and you mentioned it earlier, is that's not all going to ads. I know I'm an ads person, but you don't want that all to go to ads. An ideal split would be 50-50. 50% you're kind of organic, but not organic, but you're more like analog activities. Maybe you're sending a mailer. Maybe you are going to be present at a couple of community events. Like those things are very, very good. And then 50% goes towards those digital, opportunities, your Facebook ads, your Google ads, things like that. So you want to diversify that marketing budget, but that would be a very, very good way to do it. So if you're nervous and you don't really have enough like year over year data, then just go based off of last month, or maybe it was, May of last year. If it's May this year, May of last year, so there's ways to kind of look at that. So you're not just, throwing a Hail Mary out there and hoping for the best.
So that's a great bit of advice for someone who maybe is not budgeting at all. And, like that's how we get started. So if that's you, like just take this next step and say, okay, I'm going to start treating my business like a business. I'm going to step in. If I want to be a seven-figure spa owner, I need to start acting like that now. And that is the way, like seven-figure spa owners are creating budgets. They are out there marketing, they're testing things that are working for their businesses. The other piece of advice that I want to touch on here when we get around budgeting and kind of the how we're looking at how it's working. I like to keep track of where your leads are coming from. So if you have, X amount of new clients or patients from Google or SEO, X amount of new patients from ads, and then X amount of new patients from referrals. You want to also really look at the quality of that lead. And so if let's say that you have 50 new people that came in from search and you have 30 new people that came in from ads. What you want to do, and this would really, I would love to see this over like a quarter basis, really looking over like a 3 month time span. Take everybody that came in from SEO and check their retention rate and check what they spent in your business. Do the same thing for ads and do the same thing for referral. You may have less from ads, but they may be more qualified leads. And so that's going to help you understand, how do I diversify that budget more? If I'm getting better quality leads, then I want to make sure that I am taking my percentage budget and really putting it into the lead source. And this might change. It may
For
change from
sure.
quarter to quarter. So you may have one quarter where ads is outperforming Google and vice versa. And so it's really important for you as the CEO, getting into the numbers, looking at these types of things and paying attention to these types of things, because that will make your dollar go so much further and help your business to be more profitable. The one thing that I can tell you for sure about marketing is that it always changes. There's it's the basic concepts are there, but there's always going to be things that are shifting and changing in how we are getting the attention of our ideal client.
100%. Yes, that's so good. And I feel like you don't need to be a trend chaser necessarily, but to understand and just keep a pulse on where the market kind of is. What I want to say about that is, like, don't chase like micro trends, like what's popular on trending right now on social media probably isn't as important as which platforms your client is on.
Mm-hmm.
And trace kind of paying attention to or keeping a pulse on those like bigger trends, right? The macro trends of where people are at, how they're interacting. I mean, we see things like, I know you talk about this often, but just the importance of things like Google reviews
Mm-hmm.
and how much the customer behavior has changed over the years, to where it used to be a little bit more like somebody would see your ad, they go and kind of do the thing you wanted them to do. But now they see your ad and there's several layers that they go through. They go and they Google you, they read your review. So you just have to understand those macro kind of where
Your entire online
the
presence.
entire online presence and how people are going from point A to point Z, which is ultimately booking with you.
So good. So I know this is a little bit shorter of an episode than we typically do, but I want to keep this really focused on budgeting. And if you're listening to this and you do have some gaps in your schedule, or you do have some time that you can focus on strategy of your business, this is what I want you to focus on. I want you to look at the numbers. I want you to look at your budget. I want you to see where your leads are coming from. And I want you to create a clear plan so that you know, here's how much I can spend and here's where those marketing dollars are going. And be sure that you have time allocated to track the leads that are coming in and understand. And that can be done through a simple tagging system in your CRM. You want to make sure at the front desk that they're asking, where did you hear about us? We want to make sure that we're collecting all of that data. That will make you a very sophisticated business owner. That will make you a spa CEO in your business, to really help you build it into a company. It's so, so important. Tara, anything else that you want to add?
Oh, this was great. I always love being with your community, Daniela. And, I would just say, like, just as you start to get really comfortable with these numbers, you're going to start to feel that you really are able to pull the levers and control the revenue and really your destiny. And so understanding how you're allocating what you're investing in and how that's coming back to you and not being afraid of it will start to elevate your skill set as a spa CEO, and you'll be able to control the flow. You will be able to kind of determine, not with exactness, but pretty close, how many new customers you need, how much it's going to cost you to get those customers, and then from there things start really moving in really cool ways.
Love it. All right. Well, as always, if you want to keep this conversation going, please head on over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group. We've got all the information on our free trainings and tons of videos and resources to help you build your business. We will catch you on the next episode. Quick reminder before you leave, if your spa growth still depends on you doing more, it's time for a shift. Watch The System Shift, a free training designed to help spa owners break past that $25,000 to $35,000 month plateau without adding more treatment hours. You'll learn the CEO level systems that help you scale while protecting your time, your values, and your peace. Go to grow.autoaesthetics.com/podcast and watch The Systems Shift. That's grow.autoaesthetics.com/podcast.